Good evening, everybody. I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. So, for this episode, I'd like to take you back a bit, back to last year, where I participated in Musical Theater Village's production of Shrek the Musical. During that show, I played Farquaad's right-hand man and captain of the guards, Thelonious, and his bishop. And to me, it was a pretty fun experience for me and my friends. And that show was the reason why I blogged Shrek's main 4 movies. And believe me, those films were blogged about 2 years after I shared my thoughts on Shrek's 3D midquel and the 2011 spin-off film Puss in Boots. Speaking of which, in my opinion, I still think Puss is a great Zorro-style swords cat, and I think his spin-off movie had a pretty interesting story due to it featuring not only Puss's kittenhood backstory, but it also included a Jack and the Beanstalk plot, and the main antagonist, Humpty Dumpty, wasn't really all that threatening due to his friendship with Puss. But still, I don't forgive him for making Puss look like an outlaw. However, about 11 years later, during the same year when I performed in Shrek the Musical, Puss got a theatrical animated sequel, which of course is the film that I'll be blogging tonight. Released on December 21st, 2022, the movie is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Now, let's get started. Taking place about a decade after his first spin-off film, Puss in Boots, the undaunted Spanish hero, is now down to the last of his 9 lives. And if it weren't enough, the unstoppable bounty hunter known as the Big Bad Wolf, aka Depp, is after him. To restore all of his precious lives and escape an inglorious fate, Puss must pluck up his courage and embark on a dangerous quest into the dark forest to find the legendary wishing star. However, Puss isn't the only one seeking the map to the magical star. As the daring outlaw puts his skills to good use to stay one step ahead of formidable adversaries determined to get their hands on it, a crucial question arises. Does he have what it takes to face his most skilled and terrifying opponent and get his life back on track? Sorry, you'll have to find out for yourself. Anyway, how was the sequel? Was it better than the first movie? Well, in my opinion, you better believe it was. And to further explain why I love this movie, let's move on to Mustang notes. Plans for a sequel to Puss in Boots began in November 2012, but sadly did not come to fruition, languishing in development hell until it was revived in November 2018, with Illumination founder and CEO Chris Meledandri confirmed to be an executive producer. In February 2019, it was announced that the film would be helmed by Bob Persichetti, the head of story of the first film and one of the 3 directors of Sony Pictures Animation's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Joel Crawford was later announced as the new director in March 2021, along with Anuel Mercado as co-director. The story draws inspiration from a few Western films, with The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly being cited as a particular influence. As with DreamWorks' previous film, The Bad Guys, the film's style is inspired by Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. With new technology, the team was able to give the film a painterly style to resemble a fairy tale styled story, rather than using the realistic visual style of previous installments in the Shrek franchise. After its theatrical release, the film became a critical and commercial success, grossing about $484.7 million worldwide on a production budget of $90 to $110 million. And it was the 10th highest grossing film of 2022. Plus, It was nominated for Best Animated Feature at the 95th Academy Awards, but it sadly lost to Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, which I should get to blogging later this month. Now, what are my thoughts on the animation? Well, like with the Spider-Verse films, along with The Bad Guys and The Mitchells vs. the Machines, the animation is absolutely amazing. In my opinion, it almost looks like a living painting, and I think the Dark Forest, where the wishing star is a very mysterious and supernatural place. But at the same time, the path to the star is pretty randomized depending on who is holding the map. Also, I think certain elements like fur, speed, fire, and certain magical effects all look amazing. Plus, like the first movie and in the Shrek sequels, I think the fight scenes are really badass. Also, I think the jokes in this movie are pretty good, and the fairy tale references are pretty clever. As for the story, well, not only is it inspired by the good, the bad, and the ugly, but I found it to be pretty interesting that it takes place after the fourth Shrek movie. Plus, in my opinion, the parts where Puss is trying to escape from his supposed death and fate are pretty intense and thought-provoking. Also to note, when I saw the movie in theaters last year, I thought the idea of several characters journeying to find a wishing star kind of made me think of the Animaniacs movie Wacko's Wish, in a way. And that's all I got for Mustang notes. So, let's move on to the characters and the voice actors who brought him to life. Puss in Boots is once again voiced by Antonio Banderas, best known from The Mask of Zorro and its sequel, The Legend of Zorro, along with the first three Spy Kids films, Evita, the second SpongeBob SquarePants movie, and the Indiana Jones finale. To me, Puss is still an awesome Zorro-styled swords cat. He's also a proud and honorable fighter and an amazing singer and musician. Plus, I really like his smooth-talking, suave, kind-hearted, charming, and heroic personality. However, during this film, after losing 8 lives, Puss decides to take shelter at Mama Luna, whom the doctor recommended to him. But many months later, after overhearing about the magical wishing star, Puss becomes determined to find it in order to restore his lives. Next is Kitty Softpaws, voiced again by Salma Hayek, whom was in Spy Kids 3D, Aardman's Pirates Band of Misfits, and Sausage Party. To me, Kitty is the same cool, sneaky, alluring, and clawless cat she was in the first film, and I like that she wears a green sash around her waist instead of a belt. During this film, it's revealed that the main reason why Puss and Kitty weren't together after the first movie or during the Shrek timeline was because of the Santa Coloma incident. In this case, Puss jilting Kitty at the altar, which she keeps bringing up with deep resentment as reasoning for her search for the wishing star. However, later on, as both cats have a heart-to-heart, not only does she regain her trust in Puss, but she also reconciles with him after witnessing his fight with death, which made her realize what he was actually going through this whole time and that he truly has changed. Next we come to Puss's new friend, Perrito, voiced by Harvey Guillén, whom was recently in the Blue Beetle movie. This little fella is a happy-go-lucky, optimistic dog whose goal is to be a therapy dog in his future. Plus, he's easily trusting and naive, but he never fails to see the best in everybody and everything. Also, I thought his backstory, where his owners tried to get rid of him by attempting to drown him in a river, was actually very sad. Throughout their journey to find the wishing star, Perrito would ultimately touch the hearts of the two cats and fully form their unity known as Team Friendship. Fun fact, Perrito is the second animated character of 2022 who uses inappropriate words that get bleeped out. The first being Merton in the DC League of Super Pets. As for the other characters, we have Goldilocks, voiced by Florence Pugh, whom was Yelena in the MCU's Black Widow movie, along with 2019's Little Women, Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, and she'll be in Dune Part 2 next year. Goldie is the infamous leader of the Three Bears crime family. When she was a little orphan girl, she was adopted by the Three Bears after sneaking into their cottage and eating their porridge, similar to what happened in the original fairy tale. To me, Goldie seems like a fierce and determined young woman, seeking what she wants with great fervor and having a liking for things to be just right. Though she is close with her adoptive family, deep down, she longs for her biological family, which is why she wants the wishing star's singular wish. But nearing the end of the movie, Goldie finally understood that the family she's always wanted, she already had. Next we come to Goldie's adoptive family, the Three Bears, which consist of Papa Bear, voiced by Ray Winstone, Mama Bear, voiced by Olivia Colman, and Baby Bear, voiced by Samson Kayo. Next is Big Jack Horner, voiced by John Mulaney, whom was Spider-Ham in the Spider-Verse movies, and Chip Chipmunk in Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. This guy is a feared pastry chef and a crime lord who has a history of stealing various magical items, creatures, and people ever since he was snubbed of fairy tale fame. He planned to reach the wishing star in order to enact his wish to harness all magic on the planet. Funny story, when I saw this movie in theaters, I had a pretty hard time figuring out which fairy tale Jack came from. But then, when it got to the part where he sticks his thumb into his pies, that made me finally remember his nursery rhyme. Anyway, I think Big Jack is a cruel and sadistic megalomaniac of the highest order, and he cares nothing for the lives of others, even those of his own subordinates. Plus, I thought his backstory, where he was upstaged by Pinocchio, was pretty funny. The last character to talk about is the Wolf, aka Death, voiced by Wagner Moura. This character is described as the physical embodiment of death, who takes the form of a white wolf in a black poncho. After Puss loses 8 out of his 9 lives, Death shows up, attempting to claim his final life, with Puss believing that he's a bounty hunter who's after the reward on Puss's head. In my eyes, this character is a cunning and sinister individual. Plus, he's sadistic and thrill-seeking, as he takes a great degree of pride and pleasure in his work. And of course, he's very intimidating and scary with his piercing red eyes, his sickles, and his whistle. And now on to my final words. Overall, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is an amazing sequel. It has great animation, great characters, good humor, badass action scenes, and clever fairy tale references. Also, the story is very epic, emotional, dark, twisted, mature, and thought-provoking. However, I don't think this is a film that little kids should watch on their own, due to it having a little bit of adult language and a medical scene which could make you feel a bit uncomfortable. But anyway, I give this movie a full 100%. Well, that's all for... Computer, what's happening?
Sir, my sensors have picked up an unidentified object approaching the area.
It can't be the COVID bats, because last I recall, You told me that they were disintegrated after I defeated their master. Computer, could you analyze it, please?
Analyzing now. It appears to be Diablo.
Diablo? Well, if that raven is nearby, that could mean one thing. My childhood nightmare is out there trying to haunt me again. And since I've already blogged her 2 live-action films, what better way to face my fears than to share my thoughts on the 1959 animated classic, which mainly centers on her pure-hearted niece, which I think might be the best idea for my 800th episode. However, at the same time, I think I should also post it as soon as my 33rd birthday comes up on 9/20. So folks, be sure to join me when the time comes. Mustang Power.